But it wasn't a dream. It was a place. And you were there.
Oh, sure.
But you couldn't have been, could you?
Well, we dream lots of silly things when we...
No, Aunt Em. This was a real, truly live place.
Japanese submarine slammed two torpedoes into her side, Chief.
Beautiful. But just
It's coming back. The island,
Saturday,
Tinian Delaney, she
June
delivered
18th,
the bomb. The Hiroshima bomb.
1983.
Doesn't anybody believe
Joaquin,
me?
Gulf of Siam.
There's an old joke. Two elderly women are at a Catskill Mountain resort, and one of them says,
It's the first day off.
This place is
We're
really
shot for about half an
The other
hour.
one says,
About
no,
130
it's a
miles
small
we're trying to get a little rest.
Well, that's essentially how I
Outside
feel
this
about
pool,
life. Full of loneliness, and misery, and suffering, and happiness, and it's all over as much as the other important joke for me, so
Even the people who wrote the Bible were smart enough to know, tell them a story.
In a cave in Spain, known as El Castillo, handprints some 40 to 50,000 years old decorate the walls. Dating back to the Neanderthals, the prints are a precursor of cave art of Paleolithic France, like this handprint from Chauvet, or this one from the American Anasazi tribe, or the Sistine Chapel, or every child's first year of school. Each of these is a story. Some we know well, others so faded they're little more than mysteries. And so we ask, who were these people? What did they believe? Would they recognize us as their descendants? Would we find our origins in them? What we want to know is their story. What we do know, science has discovered. We know something about when these were made and what materials were used. By examining bones around the caves, we know if the animals depicted were eaten or revered. And we can make an educated guess if the artists were Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon. We can conjecture if they were social, tribal, or warlike. What we have then are theories, the scientific equivalent of stories, because both theories and stories are built on cause and effect. The scientific laws often follow an if-then construction. If no force is applied to a body at rest, says Galileo, then the body will remain at rest. And if a gun is introduced into the first act of a play, says Chekhov, then by the third act it will go off. The comfort of cause and effect is its predictability, a sense that order ultimately reigns in our world. It's the same comfort we feel when we imagine our lives with a beginning, a middle, and an end, the sense that novels and people both find resolution. The point is that data and experience by themselves signify nothing. What we need is a theory or narrative to connect them, a thread that gives them meaning by giving them context. By asking where life came from, or where we came from, we seek to give our lives context and thus meaning. If we know our beginnings, we believe, perhaps we will better understand our inevitable ends. So if narrative is the governing metaphor of our lives, then we can make sense of our world by tracing its storyline. For instance, a set of data like a baseball spreadsheet tells us little until we weave the data together to form a story. Would you place this player on your fantasy team, for instance? Well, his batting average is .296, but his on-base percentage is only .304, suggesting that he doesn't get a lot of walks. Why? Well, he also has a high strikeout percentage, suggesting that this guy swings at bad pitches as well as good. And his percentage with runners in scoring position drops to .212. That's not good. So what's this guy's story? Well, he'll definitely get you hits, but when you need him, like with runners on base, he'll probably let you down. And because he's undisciplined at the plate, he won't get on base as frequently as a guy with a lower batting average, but higher on-base percentage. In short, the guy's got talent, but I wouldn't take him in the first or second round. In this way, we tease out the story that lies beneath the data, like a landmass that connects the islands beneath an ocean. A story enables us to find seemingly unrelated pieces of data and create a picture, connecting the dots the way the small dabs of paint in a Seurat print cohere and create complex colors. So if we dig deep and long enough, we can find enough information that will operate like building blocks, which we assemble into patterns of thought that inductively produce a story, a narrative that was not there in the single bits of data, but that now binds them together. For instance, Robert Mills first designed the Washington Monument in the 1840s, a plan more ornate and complex than the nation began to build in 1848, nearly a half-century after the death of the first president. But construction stopped as the Civil War approached and wasn't resumed until 1877 and finally completed in 1884. In design, it was a throwback, recalling the neoclassical architecture of the 18th century in its Greek colonnade, and the Egyptian obelisk referenced the Masonic beliefs of the Founding Fathers. Completed a decade after the nation's centennial, the monument's one concession to modernity was its aluminum capstone, the largest such casting of its time, when aluminum was comparable in price to silver. Over 800 dignitaries attended the dedication on February 21, 1885, and when it was opened to the public on October 1, 1888, it was the tallest building in the world and remained so for a year. In Paris, the French were planning their own centennial, the Exposition of 1889, but their focus was on heralding the future, not enshrining the past. So when they held a competition for a building that would capture the spirit of the age, they awarded the project to Gustave Eiffel, whose skeletal steel frame would sweep toward the heavens with no purpose except to demonstrate that it could. And while the price of aluminum plummeted, steel symbolized modernity, used to reinforce the newly named skyscrapers, such as the buildings of Chicago designed by Louis Sullivan, whose motto, "Form follows function," was a rejection of the ornate decor of the neoclassical world. On May 15, 1889, the tower was opened to the public, rising 1,050 feet, surpassing the Washington Monument to become the tallest building in the world. In design and philosophy, it was a harbinger of modernity, the icon of a new era, which it continued to be for 4 years, until George Ferris's wheel debuted at the 1893 Columbian Exposition. But that is another story.
All right, who done it?
You did.
They all did it. But if you want to know who killed Mr. Body, I did. In the hall, with the revolver.
To solve a mystery, we frame our questions as narratives. What happened and who done it? And we follow the same process a detective does when we create a narrative. First, we gather information, which can be clues or evidence or any isolated data. Then we put the information into categories, establishing patterns by finding what connects some data and excludes others. Then we make our induction, a statement that explains how our categories are connected. And then we tell the story. Because as helpful as a statement is, it's still an abstraction. If we want the statement to resonate, we need to locate it in the here and now. We need to apply it to our lives to see if it fits. This is why a statement is often followed by a request for specifics, for instance, or for example, specifically to illustrate. Because we are a species driven, like Oedipus, to know. So we push against the boundaries, reaching back to learn when the universe itself began, because our origins are the beginnings of our collective narrative, the story of life that contains a multitude of other stories. So we leave markings, signs that we were here so others will remember our stories, because if they remember our stories, they will remember us. History is littered with our prints, all of which declare, I am here, which is why we simultaneously look up at the light of the stars while digging beneath our feet to find handprints concealed deep in darkness.